welcome to It's the Pictures. This is episode number 194. My name is Evan Crean, and I am joined here by my co-host, Max Colville.
How you doing, Evan?
Good. How about you, Max?
I'm celebrating a birthday today. I always remember this now because of the memes on the internet as like Goodfellas Day, and I'm like, out of all the movies that could be like referenced on my birthday, at least like it's a good one, right?
That's true.
So I'm happy it's Goodfellas Day.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Now, am I remembering correctly? That's on like the title card of like that's the day that like the cops are coming after Ray Liotta. He's seeing the helicopters, his like crazy
Yeah.
paranoid like. Nice, very nice. So happy birthday, Max! Did you do
Thank
something
you.
fun today for your birthday?
Yes, we went to the Lego Explore store on Assembly Row in Boston.
Oh, nice.
And we went around and looked at all the exhibits there, and it was great fun. My wife Shannon, she was kind of disappointed when we were leaving because she made me this like fantastic deal, right? That she was like, "It's your birthday, you can get like any Lego you want," and I knew exactly which one I wanted, and so I asked, and they were like, "Oh, we don't have that one in stock."
Oh man, what a bummer.
And Shannon was like, you would think like the Lego store would have any Lego in the world. And then so she felt so bad about it. Like when we were driving on the way home, we were like, we're going to stop at the Natick Mall Lego because like they have it in stock and get it. And,
Nice.
we ran in there and picked it up.
Which set was it?
It was the Lord of the Rings Rivendell set.
Nice.
And yeah, it has like minifigs of all the fellowship and what have you, like right when they're deciding who will take the ring to Mordor.
Great. I bet you're excited to build it.
I'm very excited to build it. She said she's sick of and tired of hearing me talk about it because I've been like talking about it for like the last like year or two, and she's just like, "Here, I bought it for you. Now, be quiet and build it."
Shut up and build it, Max.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, listeners. You probably might have heard that there's another voice that joined, and I wanted to mention that we do have a guest on this week's episode, who is
appearing for the second time.
Yeah, second appearance, first time with me on the show actually, and we've gabbed about many a movie in the past, and it's been a while since we've chatted. So I'm very excited to welcome Deirdre Crimmins. Welcome, Deedee.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Happy birthday, Max.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I held back calling you a nerd when you got the Legos, but
I hold that nerd prize tightly.
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
fine.
It's a badge of honor.
Yes.
Well, we all have things we're nerdy about. I mean, movies is one that we share. we all have in common here. That's for sure. But yeah, so Deedee, why don't you tell the listeners, since it's been a little while since you've been here, a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. Deirdre Crimmins. I'm now a Chicago-based film critic. I write mostly about horror films, so we're going to talk about stuff related to that. Yes, I write mostly for Roomwork Magazine, also thatshelf.com. I'm American, sadly, but I happen to be writing a lot for a lot of Canadian outlets nowadays.
Yeah, that's right. You do have a lot of Canadian pals from the horror circuit, right? Especially
Exactly.
which is the one that's the festival is in Montreal? Is it?
Oh, Fantasia.
Fantasia, right? Yeah, I know you're a picture
that's
at that
coming
festival.
up in about 6 weeks. I love that festival so much. Yeah, it's incredible. I think it's like its 25th year this year or something like that.
Nice.
Maybe more. Who knows?
Dee, do you like to compare them, like Fantastic Fest versus Fantasia at all ever, or are they still different enough that like both of them have a place?
Both of them have a place, both geographically and in my heart. Yeah, they're like Fantastic Fest is a little bit more like summer camp, whereas like Fantasia's kind of like going back to school on the first day. Like there's just like a slightly different energy, but everyone's just really excited to see their friends again. But yeah, they're amazing. There's a lot of film overlap between the two. Well, not a lot. Occasionally there's film overlap between the two, but they're both like very different vibes in a good way.
Good.
Nice. And I know you also just watch a lot of movies, period. Like I think of the people I know, you probably watch like the most number of movies per year. Like anyone I know, between like all the stuff you see at festivals and all the stuff you like actually go to see to review, like new releases.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I've been telling myself to review last week or less frequently because I'm working on some other things that need more of my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then like someone on one of the sites that I write for will be like, hey, can anyone cover this? I'm like, I can, because I've seen it and I loved it and I want to talk about it. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, Dee Dee, you reminded me of something. We're going to talk about it off air, okay?
Okay. That sounds like a threat, though. You're pointing at me, but yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like you got
I'm
called
in.
to like the principal's office. Like,
I
see
know,
me
right?
after class. Well, yeah, as we mentioned, Dee Dee is here to talk with us about horror, but specifically, we are talking about sci-fi horror in this episode, and we'll get to that in a minute or two. We're going to talk about the news, but yeah, that's our topic for this week is sci-fi horror. This is a topic that I was excited to talk about with Dee Dee, but also just I love sci-fi horror movies, and I just thought it'd be a fun topic of discussion. So we'll get to that in a minute, but first we've got a couple of tidbits of news. The first story is Grand Theft Auto 6 dropped a new trailer, and it's been seen by so many people. It passed 475 million views on the first day, which is a lot. And for a frame of reference, the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, 365 million views in 24 hours. The Fantastic Four trailer, the most recent one, 200 million. This is 475 million. So that's a lot. A lot of people are excited about this game. And, since it recently got delayed until next year, people are just trying to, get every morsel, every detail they can find about this. So it's not surprising. But the other thing, too, is that the song in the trailer, Hot Together by the Pointer Sisters, apparently, the streams of the song on Spotify soared by 182,000%. So,
oh my goodness.
yes, people love Grand Theft Auto a lot, apparently, and they're really excited, like anything related to it. So, this was not. I knew that it got pushed back. I saw the stories, but I didn't see the trailer. Did either of you two see the trailer for this?
Yeah, I watched the trailer. I was one of those 475 million at the time. It's crazy. That number must be astronomically higher even now because that was within the first 24 hours. But Grand Theft Auto 6 is expected to be the biggest video game of all time. The previous one continues to be on best-selling list even like some decade plus after being released. People just love the franchise, and it's a evergreen title. And I wanted to highlight just how crazy the numbers are for it because I guess the date that they selected for next year coincides with like the date that the new Mandalorian movie is supposed to come out from Disney and Lucasfilm.
Wow.
And it's just like, will Star Wars blink? Because like this Grand Theft Auto is gonna like make a lot of money and be a big deal for a lot of people.
Right. And you can bet people are not going to buy that game and go, oh, I'll play it after I see The Mandalorian. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to take it home right away, and they're just going to be consuming it.
Yeah. No, I did not see it. Video games don't exist in my world.
But you must have had a passing in Grand Theft Auto 5 over all these decades, no?
I know it
years.
exists. I want to say my ex-husband used to play it, but like, yeah, I don't have it. It's just like I play Wordle. Like that is as invested as I get into any version of a game.
Yeah, Dee Dee is not a big fan of games in general. Like we were shocked to discover we were like, Dee Dee, do you want to come over and play some games? And she's like, no, I'm good. Bye.
No, I really don't. I like hanging out with you guys, but absolutely not. Yeah, I have physically removed myself when people take out like Settlers of Catan, being like, I love you, that's why I'm leaving.
So I guess the Minecraft movie wasn't on your radar to review.
No. No, I love Jack Black, but isn't like the Minecraft movie the reason that he broke up Tenacious D, basically?
Oh, I don't know about that. I thought it was something to do with like support for the president or something.
It was something like that, but then there was like, they've always been, I mean, they're not like the most PC guys ever. So it was like rumors that if it came out that they were anti-Trump, that would impact the Minecraft crowd.
Yeah. I did hear rumblings about that potentially, that why he was like not going to stand by Kyle Gass is that he had
Mhm.
other irons in the fire that were more important, that he couldn't like
Yeah.
be seen endorsing those type of statements.
Yeah. Not to bring it down, but love the Rage Cage.
Womp womp.
Yeah. But no.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I love Tenacious D. A lot of fun.
Love the D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love the D. Didn't watch the Minecraft movie, though I have seen so many sponsored snacks by them. Like everything seems to be like slightly cubic right now. Like,
I have not seen those. I'm just picturing a bunch of cube snacks.
I would eat those. Yeah.
I try
This
'em.
This episode is not sponsored by Minecraft, but I think by the time you hear it, it will be available on VOD.
Very nice. All right, so moving on from GTA, we got a couple of noteworthy new films coming from a couple of noteworthy directors. So I don't know why I said noteworthy multiple times. Anyway, moving on. So James Gray has a new film coming in the works. It's called Paper Tiger, I believe. It's going to start filming next month. Adam Driver was already attached to star in it, but I guess Miles Teller and Scarlett Johansson have joined the cast. And they are stepping in because I guess Anne Hathaway and Jeremy Strong, who were going to be in it, had to drop out because of other commitments. So the film is described as a tense and gritty story revolving around two brothers who pursue the American dream only to become entangled in a scheme that turns out to be... This is just bad writing. Turns out to be too good to be true. They could have just said a scheme that's too good to be true.
Blame it on Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah. As they try to navigate their way through an even more dangerous world of corruption and violence, they find themselves and their family brutally terrorized by the Russian mafia. Their bond begins to fray, and betrayal, once utterly unthinkable, now becomes all too possible. That part I liked of the summary. So yeah, what do we think about James Gray? What do we think about this casting news? Dee, what do you think?
Who you pitching it to?
Dee, what do you think?
I have never thought of Anne Hathaway and Scarlett Johansson as being interchangeable before. This is an interesting twist.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm like, Miles Teller and Adam Driver as brothers?
Yeah. And Miles Teller and Jeremy Strong like tag team? Like, I mean, I know they're not there at the same time, but
yeah.
I don't know. Why not? Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Max? Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always waiting for like the other shoe to drop on Miles Teller. He kind of like rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, I don't know, man.
What, you think there's gonna be some story about him being like a gigantic dirtbag?
Yeah, sometime.
Like Shia LaBeouf, like revelations, like style revelation.
Maybe I just like he rubs me the wrong way. I think like it was even like after. Maybe it was after Whiplash, like, because like I really enjoyed Whiplash, and that's like almost like a breakthrough film for him. But like even in Top Gun, I was like, you should have cast Glenn Powell as the like son or something like that, and had him be the co-lead as opposed to Miles Teller. I was like, I don't know. I don't know how he keeps getting work.
Fair enough. I like him. I think he's charming. I think he's funny. I think he's a good actor. But yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea.
And as for James Gray himself, I'm a big fan of his movies. I guess I didn't really like Armageddon Time, which was his most recent one. I think that was on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Dad Astra, I really like.
Dad Astra.
and the Lost City of Z, I think was the other one, or the Lost City. I forget what it was really called, but that was another one I enjoyed. So I typically like James Gray.
I was gonna say I don't know that I've really seen much of his filmography to have an opinion, so I'm not very helpful in that regard. So then, in addition to James Gray, we have a new film in the works from Jane Schoenbrun from who did I Saw the TV Glow and what was it? We're All Going to the World's Fair. Is that the name of that one?
Yes.
And this is gonna have Hannah Einbender from Hacks and Gillian Anderson from everything, but recently Sex Education. And the title of this one is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apparently this is a slasher franchise. It's not one I've heard of. Dee Dee, is this one you familiar with?
Nope.
Okay.
I look forward to it. Yeah.
It says the infamous. Oh, okay. This is a movie within a movie. Okay, I think I was just misreading this. So it says in Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, whatever it is, the infamous Camp Miasma slasher franchise is getting rebooted, and then in the movie, the latest movie's director becomes obsessed with the mysterious reclusive actress who played the final girl in the original film. And a whole new slasher emerges. So it's a meta. This is like a meta horror movie. Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that sounds interesting.
I wonder if Jillian and Hannah are each playing like the same
person,
or the actress who would play the same character in different iterations. That would be super cool because I could see that being the case. I don't know if it is the case, but that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be.
I love Jane's films. I think they do such good, strange stuff, and I'm consistently amazed by how high profile they get in terms of releases and premiering at Sundance and everything. Because like, I love World's Fair, but you watch it and you're just like, oh, this is just staring at a teenager's face for like an hour and a half. But I was into it. Yeah, and just the amount of story crafted in just such a tight space and time is absolutely incredible. So I'm into it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think for me, I have liked but not loved their movies, but I feel like also it's just kind of not quite my cup of tea. But I really did like. I Saw the TV Glow, like the whole vibe of it. I was totally there for. I just didn't love some of the plot developments in the last act, but I think they definitely have really great chops as a director and a storyteller. So I think this could be really, really fun and interesting. They said I make movies I wish existed when I was a kid, and this movie is my best attempt at the quote sleepover classic, an insane yet cozy midnight odyssey that beckons to unsuspecting viewers from the horror section at the local video store. So that sounds great to me. What about you, Max?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't put a finger on what Jane is currently looking for in their movies. Whether it's just looking at teenagers and kind of their plight or what they are dealing with at the time. I felt like I Saw the TV Glow was really personal. For me, it was like, I don't know if I would say looking in the mirror, but like that whole Nickelodeon Snick era that I felt like watching the film. I was just like, oh man, this is like tapping into a nostalgia vein for me that like I didn't know I needed. And they just managed to do that expertly. So I'm interested to see what Jane has up their sleeve next.
Was it the whole Fruitopia thing in that movie?
The Fruitopia machine? Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant touch. But yeah, they just did such a good job of capturing the vibe of the 90s. I think the cinematography in that movie is quite striking on its own, but just they managed to just like bottle up the 90s and just capture the vibe of it in a way that I can't think I've seen in another movie about the 90s, at least that I've seen. Like, you know what I mean? Like something that didn't even take place in the like that wasn't made in the 90s. Like I just can't think of another example of it hitting this kind of like level.
I mean, even P and P are in it. So I mean,
yeah, and it also does the whole like, it's hard to recapture what pre-internet fandom was like. Like if you met someone else who liked the same thing as you and like you thought no one else in your school did, that was like the biggest moment. And you actually found someone you could talk about the thing you were nerding out about in your head the entire time. I really loved that because it's like nowadays, like you go on Reddit, yep, there's millions of us. Okay, cool. And to just like have been like, I'm reading these books and this is a world in my head, and then you find someone that you can talk to about it, like that was like, I mean, that's everything pre-internet, but it was just a very exciting time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, should we jump into our topic for this episode?
So is it jumping in, Evan, or is it plugging in?
I guess we could say plugging in. I mean, we could you know, do some preamble here to the topic. So we're talking about sci-fi horror, as I mentioned. We're gonna actually take a little bit of a different approach. Often we'll just kind of go through like a list of movies that we want to talk about or things we've watched recently. And this time we're going to talk about tropes within sci-fi horror. So we're going to talk about some of the themes, some of the common themes that cutting across sci-fi horror movies, and obviously then we'll pull in specific examples from movies. And to help us with some brainstorming, I actually went to AI, which is funny considering the AI and evil AI is definitely one of the tropes that we're going to be talking about. So yeah, I was kind of like, oh man, I need some brainstorming powers. So I'll just go to ChatGPT, and I was asking ChatGPT about horror, sci-fi horror tropes. What was really funny was the first prompt I gave was name sci-fi horror tropes, and it literally thought I meant what are names, like tropes for names in sci-fi horror. So it gave me like a list based on that. But then I was like, no, that's not quite what I want. I want like give me tropes from sci-fi horror. I was like, okay, here's some. And so we kind of we used that list as a basis, and then kind of like whittled our way down and kind of combined some, because I felt like there were a couple that were basically not the same, but they were very interconnected, and I feel like we can talk about them together. So I think we'll just kind of go down the list of tropes. But Max, was there any other context that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I guess like as far as the sci-fi horror genre goes, I really love this combination in movies. Maybe like you and why you were kind of drawn to it. I think of some of my favorite science fiction movies, and yeah, lo and behold, they also have those elements of horror in them, whether they be Ridley Scott's classic Alien or John Carpenter's The Thing. These are some of the movies that have really spoken to me throughout the years and continue to be some of my favorite films to watch. So I was very excited to talk about this topic with the two of you and explore a little bit about exactly what makes these movies tick.
Nice. And before we jump in, Dee Dee, is there anything you wanted to add in terms of like, as a critic specializing in horror, like where does like sci-fi horror kind of fit in for you, and what are your kind of like overall thoughts on the genre?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in a sci-fi household. I ended up kind of going, my brain was more drawn to the darker side, so I ended up going with more horror stuff, but I love sci-fi. I am so steeped in it, I feel like, so often. I will say that one of the more common conversations I have was when people say like, oh, I love Alien. And I'm like, that's a horror film. And they're like, no, it's a sci-fi film. And there seems to be, I think, more than other, like, not even hybrid, just genres that have multiple elements.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that is the definition of hybrid, just not in my brain. But like, people feel the need to separate the two, whereas I think often they're better together. So it's just like, that was one thing I was interested in with this. And also, like, I love arguing about taxonomy. Like, I think it is utterly fascinating, and I think because of that, that's why like that like scratches a weird itch in my brain where I'm like, let's hammer it out. What do you think sci-fi means? What do you think horror means? Because there's definitely like sci-fi films with horror elements and horror films with sci-fi elements, and then there's just sometimes a mush, and then there's comedy, and it's just like, well, what is it then? It's like, I don't know, it's a really good movie. The director really didn't care what it was, so we get to suss it out later. But yeah, no, I absolutely love this stuff, and just looking at the list of films you have here together already, I'm like, yeah, this is like some of my favorite films of all time.
Awesome. Yeah, I also, I mean, I like genre mashups. That's one of my favorite things, and I like sometimes when a movie is like straddling multiple genres at once. But you were just reminding me of like the age-old debate of like, is Jaws a horror movie? Came to mind, because I know people love to argue about that. They love to be like, no, it's not. Like, shut up, it is.
I literally had an argument the other day, just, very friendly argument at a bar, where I was just like, is this you trying to do some weird mental gymnastics to not admit that you like a horror film? Because like, so many people are like, oh, I don't like horror, but Jaws is great. I'm like, do you have any idea? I mean, yes, it's a monster movie, but like, and monster movies can also be horror movies. Like, monster movies can be sci-fi horror. Like, yeah, it really just depends on what you're doing. But yeah, no, if Jaws isn't horror, then you're missing the point.
Yeah, I don't feel like you would be firmly in the Jaws is horror camp.
Yeah.
But yeah, So yeah, let's dive into it. So the first like trope that we have here is science gone wrong, and this is like experiments, technologies, discoveries that spiral out of control. Like they usually start out with good intentions, and then that famous quote about the road to hell being paved with good intentions. There's usually many a thing that go awry. So some of the examples that came to mind were The Fly, Splice, Life, Event Horizon, The Substance, and another kind of related trope that I think we can discuss while we're kind of digging in is things that are named like there's scientific or like mythological references to things, and I'll give more examples in a second, but like names for things in sci-fi horror movies that are rooted in like classical mythology or like scientific terminology to like kind of like hint, to viewers, like hint, here's what we're trying to say. So like, Prometheus, it's named after the Titan that gave fire to humanity. You have Icarus 2 and Sunshine, the myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun. Event Horizon, that's a term from astrophysics, like at the boundary of a black hole. So just stuff like that. And let's jump in. What are some science gone wrong movies that you enjoy, Dee?
Well, it's interesting because looking at this, like as I was going through, being like, oh, I want to add this, which category does it go in? Science Gone Wrong specifically does not include AI in the way that like ChatGPT kind of sussed this out. That has its own category, which I think, again, ChatGPT is othering itself and doesn't want to be considered in this same category because it can choose it. So just sticking to that, I mean, looking at the list here, like in a recent film, like I love The Substance. Like it's not necessarily an experiment gone wrong. It's just putting science in the hands of humanity. That's what's wrong. Like the science itself works, but humans are imperfect, so of course it's not going to work. Yeah, and The Fly is such a classic, and I love Splice. I recently rewatched it too, and it is like just as inappropriate as I remember it being, in such a way that makes you just like question everything. But like, oh man, it shouldn't be as sexy as it is. It really shouldn't. But no, I love that film.
Is that James Gunn, or am I thinking of another movie?
That's a different one.
Okay, so but Splice, does that one have Sarah?
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm thinking of. Which one is Splice again?
Sarah Polley and who's her boyfriend or husband or whatever? I forget who. Adrian Brody.
Oh,
right. And they end up like making this child thing that like ends up like evolving way too quickly and growing, and then somehow seducing Adam Driver, and like it's very strange. And they move to a farm. Like there's a lot of details that don't make sense, but it's all just about like the hubris of man to create life. Like how dare you? Like I guess like Frankenstein could fit into here easily, like the very first science fiction film.
Yeah, that's true.
Or not science fiction film, science fiction literature ever. It is the first. Yeah. Widely considered to be the first time that science was brought into fiction in that way.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So Evan, one of the things I noticed about this outline is that the movie Event Horizon gets mentioned a lot, and that is one that is definitely a blind spot for me.
For sure. I mean, that was definitely some of
mentioned in like a top 10
influence.
sci-fi horror movies. Is it just like, is it because of like what it's, like you said, like what it's influenced, or like what, because like you look at the reviews and the reviews aren't great.
Event Horizon?
Yeah.
Oh, Event Horizon's great. Have you seen it?
No, I'm saying I haven't.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I missed that part. But yeah, ChatGPT has. You should catch up.
Yeah, it's true. I haven't seen Event Horizon recently, but yeah, I would consider it. I don't know if you feel this way, Dee, but I feel like it's kind of like a staple of the genre in terms of like, I don't think it like did anything pioneering per se, but it is very iconic in that it has a really gnarly premise, like the idea that they like ripped open the gateway to like hell with this scientific experiment, and the people in the crew are like losing their mind and gouging their eyes out and just like all kinds of nastiness.
Yeah, like it's very unapologetically like horror, which I think is one of the reasons I love it. It's not just like, oh, we have like one person melting. Like it's just like, no, there's a lot of like bodily functions just flying out the window. Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. It is often cited a little bit more than I would think it would be. And I
Mm.
don't know if it's because it's enough of a touchstone that people get the reference, though not Max. You're gonna catch up. I'm excited for you to watch it. But
Mm.
like, yeah, I don't know. I sometimes see that maybe just for me, it just hasn't had the same like cultural impact as it has for a lot of other people. It's still amazing, and I still rewatch it honestly like every few years. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It's a pretty great cast too, from what I remember.
yeah,
Like
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne, kind of like
Oh
being,
yeah,
very central to the movie, and just I don't know, it's a little bit iconic in terms of some of the people that are in it.
no, for sure.
Let's see what else do we have here. Oh, we have Life. That was a movie like I saw it, but like a very long time ago, and I remember liking elements of it, but also feeling quite frustrated by it at the time. That's one of those ones where I feel like they really screwed up because like they're experimenting on like an alien life form, and they basically just piss it off. They do something to like shock it or some such thing, and then it just spirals out of control from there. That's like kill everyone.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
No, would you consider, okay, so as I was looking at films to either include or not include and things like this,
Mm-hmm.
so like several zombie or outbreak films start with either something extraterrestrial bringing whatever scourge to the earth and it's spreading like wildfire,
Mm-hmm.
or a bad science experiment. Like 28 Days Later specifically is what I'm thinking about here. Like that
Mhm.
starts out with animal testing, of course, being a terrible thing.
Right.
And then it spreads to humans, and then the rage virus, destroys all of England, and who
Well-
knows what else later.
Well, Dee Dee, I'd actually encourage you to talk more about 28 Days Later, considering that can definitely peg into the sequel that's coming out this summer. And
yeah, the third, yeah.
Yeah.
Tertius, if we're doing like the like mythological names. Yeah, no, and so like I don't know, it's kind of like I've been thinking about like deism a lot lately. It's like God sets up the world and then kind of pieces out and it just kind of keeps doing its thing. So in that regard, Science Gone Wrong sets up that world. And then it's an outbreak film. Like not all
Mhm.
outbreak films come from Science Gone Wrong, but that one does. Like, yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting to think about. Also, it's very much so that it's an outbreak film, that is not a zombie film. They act like zombies, but they're not zombies. So I have
That's
very
true.
strong opinions on that too. But yeah, so I guess like if we're thinking of it in those terms, like it is Science Gone Wrong. But then is the sequel Science Gone Wrong if it doesn't include the science? This is where the taxonomy thing, I love arguing about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's where you can like really get into the weeds.
Yeah.
Like really dig into it. Because I'm also now thinking of like, I would say I'm thinking of 12 Monkeys, which definitely I think hews a
Mhm.
lot more sci-fi than horror per se, but it does have elements of horror in it. And it also is a science gone wrong because it's an outbreak, but it's like a manufactured outbreak that someone has
Mhm.
like caused, the world, knocked out the world's population, and they're trying to travel back in time and piece it together and figure out how the heck they can like maybe stop it from happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other movies you want to talk about, or should we jump to the next topic? Or next trope?
Let's talk. Did we talk about are we going to talk about the names thing?
Oh yeah, I mean like I think I mentioned those briefly, but yeah, there's the Prometheus, Icarus, Event Horizon. Like yeah, they like to, in the genre, very common to kind of use mythology to kind of talk about the hubris of man, or scientific terminology to kind of like hint to the viewer like, okay, here's a theme that we're going to explore. Here's a point we're trying to make from all of this. Was there more you think we should say on that?
I mean, I love the stuff that it hints at.
Mhm.
Also, like Darth Vader, like if anyone spoke German, they knew what was happening there. But like, not that Star Wars is a horror film, but I think that I love when the names are hinting at stuff. But it's
Mhm.
funny because until I looked at this, I was just like, oh no, they always just use like astrological names, and those are almost always mythologically based. So it's like, Saturn was a god, like,
Mhm.
so stuff like that. So I think that's interesting that it also picked up on this because I assumed it was like, this is a chicken and egg thing, right? Like, is sci-fi named after mythology or after space stuff or both? And is there a difference? I'm asking a lot of questions I have no intention of answering.
No, I mean, even if we got to the foundations of it, right, Dee Dee? It's just there's a lot of arguments going back to Star Wars, even if it's science fiction or fantasy. And I think most people would settle that it's fantasy, but it's interesting to see even how people come to define science fiction.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have definitions?
Do we have definitions? I think for me personally, it has to be with some kind of unexplainable, like, elements. I don't want to use the word science in my explanation of what I think it is, right? But I think it has to, like, expand the bands of our knowledge and, like, kind of make sense in a way in our biology and what the world is made out of. And the thing with Star Wars, at least before the prequels came out, and trying to explain, like, that it was because they had some kind of, like, readings off the chart of, like, to say, like, how much force power they had. Yeah, midichlorians, to say how much force power they had. Star Wars was more about faith, right? And just whatever you wanted your fantasy to believe. And I think, like, that was the difference for a long time between it being fantasy and science fiction, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, science fiction is something that's either based in, like, current technology that we, like, have that could, expand at some point to be whatever, topic or theme. Like, if it's AI that has gotten so smart in the movie that, it's out of control, or it's space travel and we can do, we could get to Mars, but maybe we can't get there as fast as we can get there in this movie. Or something that we're, like, very close to being able to do, but not, like, quite able to get there yet. For me, that's kind of what I think of when I think of science fiction. Like, something that's, like, immediately relatable to the current moment, like a progression of it, or something that, like, we're aiming for, but we're not quite there yet, but, like, it's conceivable in 100 years, we'll be great at cloning. We'll be able to, like, cryogenically freeze people, like, things that definitely could have a scientific basis to them, even if we're not there yet.
Perhaps that's plausible, right, Evan? Is that, like, what you're looking for?
Yeah, something that is plausible. Like, it doesn't have to be doesn't have to be possible, but it should be plausible. There we go. Okay. There's my definition. What about you, Dee Dee?
Oh, you guys both, like, each touched on a version of the way I think about it. It's like, I think, but if it's either science fiction or fantasy, that encompasses just about everything that's otherworldly, that doesn't exist in our own reality. Whether it be witches with actual powers, like, witches exist, whether or not they have powers is debatable. Like, mermaids, like, you know what I mean? Like, all the stuff that is otherworldly. For me, I can slice it down the middle between, are they trying to pretend that there's a scientific explanation for it, whether or not it's science that exists now or not, like, right, or is it just magic? And that's fantasy for me. So, like, science fiction, like, it doesn't have to be real science, but it does have to have some basis in at least that world explaining it in science terms. Yeah. And so, like, Max's, like, whole, like, the Star Wars example is the one I always give. It's just, like, episodes 4, 5, 6 is fantasy. Episodes 1, 2, 3 is sci-fi because of the midichlorians. Like, they're trying to explain it. Whereas in 4, 5, 6, it's magic.
It's faith.
So it's faith. It's a Western, like, whatever you want it to be. Like, yeah. I guess a follow-up question because I'm getting you guys off track, but I'm really enjoying this.
Same.
Because it's the other half of the coin for tonight. Do you guys have a definition for horror?
Ooh.
Evan, would you like to field this first?
Oh my God, yeah.
Are you just buying time, Max?
No, I mean, I'm like, actually, now I'm like, really, like, what am I going to say for this? And, like, I know there's a lot of debate from people about whether horror has to be scary to you personally. And I kind of understand that, but part of my definition of horror is that it has to scare me and unsettle me. Like,
so if it doesn't, but you can tell it's trying to, do you no longer consider it a horror film?
that's where it's tricky, because I'm like, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
if it's not scary, I wouldn't, I don't know. Like,
Well, I'll let you off the hook a little bit by saying like a film like Uncut Gems, I imagine, is unnerving, and it brings out terrible feelings while you're watching it. But I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as a horror, but it's certainly thrilling at parts.
yeah.
I think for me, I don't know. I know Dee Dee's gonna prove me wrong, so I guess like my loose idea is like I envision like horror as like some kind of person or otherworldly being like being involved in like hunting you down or kind of cursing you in some magical way. I look to movies like as this example for like Hereditary, like you see it passed down to the family, like almost like this curse, or Halloween, one of my favorite horror movies, where it's just like a person or a, I guess that they like to call Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise the Shape, because maybe he isn't so much a person, but he's like a being or a manifestation of this evil, and that is the horror where it's coming from.
So you have like the malevolence there, like the like anger, not anger even, but just like someone wants to hurt someone or something or some way of life. Interesting.
See, I feel like I'm okay. It doesn't have to be a fantastical origin to me. Like, it can just be regular people being terrible and murderous. Like, I think that for me, that's horror. I think, but circling back to what I was fumbling around in the dark with before, I think if it's someone who's attempting to scare me, I would still consider it horror. But I mean, obviously, for me, a horror movie's quality is that it scares me and unsettles me, and I know that that's something that other critics don't feel sometimes. They're like, oh, it didn't need to scare me to be good, but I'm like, I kind of does to me. Like, it kind of needs to scare me to be, for me to consider it good, to be like unsettling and creepy, and I just feel like that's kind of integral to me. But maybe you don't feel that way, Dee Dee.
I mean, I wish I got scared. I never really do anymore. Like, it's really rare. So if I took, not like there's points, but like if I like dinged things for like not scaring, like I can sit through a whole like beautifully crafted like slasher and be like, that was well done, and then like go off into the night and not even look behind me. So for like, okay, so like get a little nerdy on you, because I did spend way too much on a master's degree to talk about film theory, but there was this amazing film writer and theorist named Robin Wood who passed away not that long ago, and he had this whole book that talked about a lot of genre stuff, and very specifically talked about how he like defines and approaches certain genre studies, and one of them specifically was horror. And he has like this very beautiful and simplistic way of defining horror, and it's just a jumping off point, but I like to think of things like this, where he says that horror only consists of three things: the normalcy, the monstrous, and their relationship. And it's like the monstrous could be a monstrous human, like it doesn't have to be that face. Also, the normalcy doesn't necessarily need to be humanity or Americans or what have you, but it's interesting to think about things like, as we're going through this, it's like to the alien, good God, these humans are monsters. Yeah. Like, and I think it's an interesting way to think of it, because it's like, of course, the alien is the one like thrashing and killing all of them and that sort of stuff, and like bursting out of chests. So like from a very surface point, there is the monstrous there. But it's really just about their relationship between them, because if there's no relationship there, or if they're not like, they're just like ships in the night, it's not it's not a horror film. So I like to think of it like that.
I really like that definition as well, and it really it pulls into kind of sharp relief the contrast in the films too, like when you're watching a horror film, and it's like you have that normalcy in the beginning, you're like, this is the status quo, like this is the person's like daily life, and then it's just thrown into a like utter tailspin from the monstrous, the clashing of the two and the pushing and the pulling. That's such a great definition. I really like that.
And there's like, I swear I saw this as a cross stitch pattern, but I need to make it, and I want to like just hold it close to my heart, where it's like, knowledge is knowing that Frankenstein is not the monster. Wisdom is knowing that he is. Like
like that too.
Right there. That like encompasses so much of it for me.
Yeah. Well, this was a fun detour. I think it's
Sorry.
helpful.
No,
I think it's helpful
important
too to
that,
like,
that how we
frame the
define sci-fi
conversation.
horror.
Yeah. But also, it's
Yeah.
just a fun exercise, like to be asked that question and be like, okay, now I gotta
Right.
like put a stake in the ground and like put some definition behind this and like how I would define it. So I like that too.
Yeah. Now I need you to go through this list, Evan, and say which movies don't scare you so we can not consider them horror.
So yeah, let's see. Our next trope is an alien entity. So encounters with extraterrestrial
What do you
beings,
know?
hostile, parasitic, or unknowable. I like that, or unknowable. Like
Mhm.
we can't understand this thing. Well, obviously we've got Alien, The Thing, Under the Skin, Predator, Quiet Place, Tremors, Slither. I've never seen Tremors. I know, Max, you saw it recently for the first time, right?
Yeah, that's why I threw it on the list.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's for me, like that movie certainly, like, it kind of toes the line. It's having a lot of fun. Like I know Dee Dee's probably threw Slither on the list. That's kind of
Yep.
the way I feel about that movie too. It's a horror movie. It's science fiction, but it's also having a lot of fun too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I threw Slither on here, and I went back and double checked that because I think I added A Quiet Place, either that or I confirmed.
Oh
that
yeah,
wanted
I
it
see
here.
that there. It's you.
Because I was like, wait, is that extraterrestrial or is it science? Like, where'd those things come from? And it is extraterrestrial, but I just hadn't remembered it as such because again, that's just kind of the jumping off point. Yeah, I love this sort of stuff. The whole like it exists not on our planet, but it's always like they have like an axe to grind. Like the thing is here for a reason. Like the alien lady and Under the Skin is here for a reason. Like
Yeah.
that kind of is terrifying. It's like the intention and that like being given orders almost like why they want to kill us. Yeah.
It's
for
unsettling.
for me personally, when I was going back, maybe I guess over the last decade, I started watching more horror movies and putting my big boy pants on and just exploring the genre. And I really found that The Thing was probably the scariest movie for me personally. It might be my aversion to blood, which is a big part of it. That there is a scene in particular in The Thing where they are doing a blood test to see if they're having like if one of them is the thing that I think, is way up there for me in tension, and I always think that is a pinnacle movie in the sci-fi horror genre.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Mhm.
we were talking about staples before. The Thing, Alien, these I think are definitely staples in the genre. Some of my favorites. The Thing is one of just my all-time favorite movies, period. It's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. It's probably my favorite sci-fi horror movie. I love John Carpenter. I love just
Mhm.
everything about this movie. Like The Thing itself is, so gross and grotesque looking, and like the special effects are so like goopy and just like I don't know. I just love everything about watching it. It's just it's such a fun movie. The cast is great. The isolation element is really really just fantastic, and it has a fucking awesome ending too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. No, the thing is, I mean, you can't say anything bad about it. Like,
Nope.
it's absolutely amazing. It has Wilford Brimley, who I'm pretty sure, like, was my age when he filmed it or something, like, atrocious like that. Like, yeah, no, John Carpenter's just, when he is doing really well, he's doing incredibly well. And the thing is just the height of everything you want out of a movie. I know it's, like, super wintry. And so, like, the day that's the hottest day of the summer where your EC is just never going to cut it, that's the day I watch The Thing every year because you cannot watch that movie and feel hot, like no matter what.
Yeah.
So it just instantly cools you off, even if it is like over 100 in the air. Highly recommend. That's a little hot tip to save you some money on AC. Yeah, I also added as we were talking here, They Live, because another Carpenter that is an alien invasion film.
Yes.
And it is incredibly effective, and it is absolutely a horror film. And it also has that amazing Carpenter score, which The Thing has. Was it Morricone or something?
Yeah.
I forget who. Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
I'm glad you added They Live. It's another one of my favorites. I love John Carpenter. I love the movie, and that's fun too because it's not your typical alien invasion. Like you're saying, it's the aliens have already been on Earth and they've been taking over with like subliminal messages and they've been hiding among us, and that's just a really fun premise. And then like our hero, played by Roddy Piper, gets these sunglasses and then he puts them on, then he can see the world for how it really is. And that is a really, and Keith David again, Keith David and John Carpenter pairing together, and that was a really effective combination of like, there's so many one-liners, like just totally cheesy one-liners in the movie that just make it a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Oh my God, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like all like 3 or 4 versions of it. That would totally fit here as well. Just like, I mean, aliens are terrifying, but the assimilation factor for me is that much more terrifying. My number one fear in my entire life, ever since I've been a kid, is doppelgangers. Like I am terrified of doppelgangers at a very, very basic level. And that film, the OG version as well as the 70s version, like just fan the flames of me being like, can't trust anybody ever. Like
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the point where, like, you need, like, code words or, like, you'll know I've been replaced by a body snatcher if I ever do XYZ.
Yeah. If you ever see a version of me with no tattoos, like, you know what happened.
Yeah. Sorry, Max, what were you going to say?
No, I was gonna say. I was gonna say. So many people might hear this topic, sci-fi horror, and think like maybe these movies aren't supposed to be fun. But let me be the first among the 3 of us to tell you that these movies are absolutely supposed to be fun. We just mentioned 3 off the top of my head. Well, right off here, like Slither and Tremors and They Live, that are just absolutely a ball to watch. I mean, it's not something that will necessarily have you like shaking in your boots, but I think there's definitely, let's use a book term or like a romance book term. There's definitely like spicy peppers for the different levels of horror films. Would you agree with that, Dee Dee?
I mean, it made me laugh a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think like not every sci-fi horror is going to have as much comedy. And it doesn't mean like Alien, like when they're having that dinner scene, like after they all wake up, like there's jubilation. Like it doesn't mean that they're completely still characters, but it is a very serious film. But it also like, I think one of the things that's great about like the sci-fi horror comedy is like, if you have fun watching it, it's great. You get to watch a very extended fight scene in They Live that is absolutely incredible, and it's about sunglasses, and that's like the best part.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it after and kind of like the joy of the jokes has left you, it's a really messed up idea. Yeah. Like, and same with like, Under the Skin is not nearly as fun, though I do love it. But like Tremors, it's like, are there aliens under the ground? Do I need to like stand on a car or something? Like if you actually start thinking about it and thinking how you would act and what would happen, like that is very terrifying, even if the execution of the film is like funny and light. It just kind of goes to show that the concepts at their core and what the threat it is to humanity is still there, but it can be kind of funny.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, one franchise in here is that I added in was Predator, which I mean also is scary to me because it's like the entire point of the Predator is to hunt things. It comes to Earth to hunt us for sport, for fun. And there's something so twisted and scary about that. And I love the first one, but I also really liked Prey, the most recent one in the franchise. I thought that was extremely well done, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the next one, which I think is coming out at some point in the not too distant future.
Yeah, they just released a trailer for it. It's like Predator Badlands. I know Dee Dee does not watch trailers, audience, but
no, I physically leave the theater. I've had some very awkward dates because of that, but I know I will get up and leave. I wish that was a joke.
I know it's not. That's why I laughed.
But no, Prey was incredible. And the thing with Predator is just like the invisibility for some reason. Like you can tear me up. I'm not, I'm going to die pretty quick if you try and like gut me or whatever. But the stalking, like I don't want that. I don't want something that's like hunting me and making that weird ass noise. Like, yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, the chittering. This is so creepy.
Yeah. And make that my phone ring and just have people like freak out randomly if it ever rings.
All right, should we jump? I know we want to get through all of our tropes, so let's talk about the next one. Which I feel like this was 2 tropes originally, but I feel like they're very interconnected. And this idea of like isolation in space and doomed missions. So like small crews trapped on ships, space stations, remote planets with like no opportunity to get away, and then like an expedition that is just not gonna go well. Like you're like Alien, Pandorum, Moon, Prometheus, Sunshine, Life. Like there's also some additional kind of like sub tropes I would say of this, like names that are foreshadowing death or doom. Like I don't know which horror movie this is from. Daedalus. I wasn't familiar with that one.
It has dead in that name.
Yeah. A Golgotha Station. That's from Alien, right? Or one of the Alien movies, I thought. Oblivion, Extinction, Requiem. These are all like in the titles of movies. Like not necessarily the title, the names of like things in the movie. And then there's also like biblical or religious allusions like Eden or Ark or Cain, Abel, Lucifer, Gabriel, like all these things like for names of like AI or ships. And this is a fun one too. Like this is also like doomed missions. I feel like Sunshine for me is like the best example of the like if there's a broken down ship, don't go check it out trope in the don't do it. It's nothing ever is good is going to come from trying to check out a ship that, mysteriously disappeared and reappeared. There's no good that's gonna come. Just leave it. Just leave it be.
No, what do you no, don't yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife hates Alien because of that exact purpose. She's like, "Oh, those stupid people, they didn't like get off and like go look at the other ship or whatever, then this never would have happened." I'm like, "Exactly. You wouldn't have a movie." It's like, they have to.
Yeah. Life Force, I think. Isn't that Carpenter's first film or something like that? Am I remembering this correctly?
It's like it's Toby Hooper, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Was
Sorry,
that the Vampires in Space one?
Yeah, I was looking into that recently because I think like Arrow released a 4K of it or something.
Oh, so. I'm thinking Star Crash, which I want to say is Carpenter's very first film. And it's like you would say it was an Alien ripoff, but it came like 4 years before Alien. But it is the whole like, let's go check out the ship. Like, yeah.
Yep. Nothing good's gonna come from that, people. But yeah, isolation also just incredibly creepy. Like the idea of you're in space, you have nowhere to go, you're alone with your thoughts. Like
they can't hear you scream.
Is Gravity a horror movie then?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I don't see it as horror. I think you could argue that it was. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean she's out there all alone, has to get back.
That's the thing too. It's like I have heard, and I don't subscribe to this, but certainly plenty of people do. It's like, is it a horror film for the characters? Like there are certain films that we're watching and it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, for them, this is a living hell. But does that make it a horror film? Like,
sure, right. You argue. Yeah. It's a question. Mean, a very serious movie. You could say like 12 Years a Slave, right? In that context, right? Is that a horror movie?
Yeah. Even the movie Drop Dead Fred for the mom, that's a horror movie. I love that.
I like that you're going to Drop Dead Fred as an example.
My mind is always on Drop Dead Fred. I realize it's neither horror nor sci-fi, but that's just always, it's like a motor in the back of my brain that's just always turning. And I think that's why it doesn't work for me. That sort of taking the perspective, but it is something to at least mention.
Yeah.
And then completely throw out and say that I don't believe it. But yeah.
I was kind of thinking about that actually before the show, so I'm glad that you asked. I'm glad you put that question out there because I really was curious what Dee Dee's answer was going to be, and I enjoyed the response. So I'm glad we went there.
Yeah. There's this one movie, I think it's called Love. It's by it's by the same director who did I Origins, which was another sci-fi film. I don't quite find that horror, but and it's basically this. It's kind of like, it's not like Moon, but it's person in space is isolated. It's this guy who's the last person on a space station. They're supposed to be winding it down and he's going to come back home, and then there is nuclear war on Earth and the Earth is entirely destroyed. There's no life left whatsoever, and he's stuck up there like with dwindling air and dwindling food and just losing his mind slowly, and that's the film, and it's really incredible.
I mean, that sounds
real
good.
Big bummer, but it's like Yeah. Yeah. So I think the isolation is just such a human thing to be able to tap into, even though it can be so high concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I'm not ever gonna go on a spaceship. I'm kind of okay with it, but like I can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is very human to need connection and other people, even if you're a misanthrope. I think even misanthropes, when faced with the option of literally having no one else, would probably at least like at least one other person to talk to, or at least some very
Yeah.
intelligent AI that could kind of bridge the gap there.
But
Say
I
that,
guess
but then you get Hal.
Yeah.
I guess for like science fiction, you'd have to do like isolation in space, right? Because I go back. I watched within the last year the Ryan Reynolds movie Buried, and he's definitely isolated underground by himself. But I wouldn't necessarily call that a science fiction movie.
No, there's nothing otherworldly about it. But you could have like the Abyss. Like the Abyss has a certain degree of
Yeah.
like isolation, but it's very deep sea.
Yeah, but it does involve aliens, so there's that.
Yeah, it does.
I think what was the movie? It's not a science fiction film. It's more of a monster film. The one where the woman her plane has crashed and she ends up on this desert island, and it turns out there's like this monster out in the ocean that stalks them at night. Do you guys know that movie?
No, I don't, but it sounds interesting.
I gotta look this up. It was an incredible film. But yeah, it's more, let's split hairs. Like it's much more of like a monster fantasy film than a sci-fi film because there's no real science backing up the cryptoid or whatever that's after her.
Mm-hmm.
But that is isolated, but very much on Earth. But yeah, you're right, Max. Like most of the examples we have here are spacey.
Yeah. That's true. You're right. There could be isolation on Earth. I'm just was looking at Moon's IMDb page. I think it's interesting. It's not even tagged as horror, but I think it is horror. Like, it is a movie about isolation and cloning and like
Doppelgangers.
Yeah, doppelgangers. Like, who are you if you're a clone? Are you still your own person? Are you, if you're umpteenth iteration of real person? Like, I think there's just a lot of really great questions that movie asks, and it's one I think that like we know, like as people who review movies and watch movies, but I feel like it's not one that's very well known to like the average person, and that makes me sad because it's a really good sci-fi movie and extremely well acted and directed.
Yeah, I think some of that is like Duncan Jones went to direct source code afterwards, and that was like also similarly not very found. It seemed like it was a blockbuster in the sense of like it had big names and everything, but I don't think it like really had that big attraction. And
no, it's great though.
It is
source code.
Yeah. I was thinking Moon, but yeah, it was like I went back and watched it within like the last year or two. Like, is Moon really as good as I thought it was? Like, yeah, it really is. I love when that happens when I go back and rewatch something. Yes,
that sounds
it really
like
is that good.
That sounds like an idea for a podcast, Evan. Is that movie really that good? Where you go back and
yeah, there's definitely a lot of ones that either haven't aged well, or I was like, what the hell was I thinking when I watched this before?
Right.
Just saying, Drop Dead Fred holds up. I went and looked up the name of the film where that woman is marooned. Is called Sweetheart, all one word. I highly recommend it.
So we've talked about isolation and doomed missions, and we've hinted before at malevolent AI, but now I feel like we should just dig into it. I mean, AI is obviously a topic of the moment. There's daily advances. There's people who are trying to create the ultimate AI. There are people, I just watched a documentary like 2 weeks ago for Spoiler Piece called My Robot Sophia, about this guy who's trying to like create the ultimate like AI in robot form, and obviously there's a lot of opportunities for this to go wrong. I mean, we mentioned 2001, Hal. We've got Megan and many other examples. I mean, Terminator, like one of the ultimate examples of machines gaining sentience, realizing that people are the problem, and just like nuking people and trying to kill them. So this is like definitely a meaty theme within the sci-fi horror genre. And Go ahead.
I want to ask a question directly to Dee Dee, Evan, before we reach into this AI topic.
Yeah.
And do you find that sequels to like these AI sci-fi horror movies always like lose the horror element? Because I get the sense of like Terminator 2, it's not necessarily as horror as Terminator 1 is. Certainly Aliens is more of a, well, not AI, but that is more of like an action movie as opposed to a horror movie.
Yeah, and T2 leans more into action than
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah.
Mostly because that guy's really fast at running.
But funny that you picked both those because they're both James Cameron movies.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I think that is a great question. Like, yeah, Dee Dee, what do you feel about movies like that?
Yeah. I mean, like, I need to, like, do some more
I think
ruminating
I
on
know
examples of them, but yeah.
I know Dee Dee hasn't seen the trailer for Megan 2.0 yet because she doesn't watch trailers, but it very
Sure
much looks
haven't.
like, it certainly looks like Megan is doing Terminator 2, and like Megan's becoming the good guy this time against an evil AI.
I don't
evil
want
or
that. I
AI?
want Megan to be evil.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, this is not at all what we're talking about, like Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. Like, the first is 100% a horror film.
Yeah.
It's a horror time loop film, and then the second
Right.
one is a sci-fi time loop film. But like they did drop the horror for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no one being like hunting her.
But so much
Yeah,
fun.
I don't know. I think it is. No,
I
they're
love
great.
those
All of them.
movies. Like, I love
They're
them so
absolutely
much.
wonderful. Yeah. No, huge fan of both of them. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I think there is opportunity to pivot genres when it comes to that sort of thing. Especially if you're trying to like not do the same thing exactly over again, because that just means that you're gonna fail. Let's be honest. It only rarely does that actually work out. But if you're trying to do something slightly different, you at least can fumble trying something new rather than just fumbling at something you actually did well once.
Yeah, and I guess like even to the extreme of like horror where like I guess Freddy was originally seen as a bad guy, but then it seems like he's having so much fun that he's almost the protagonist as the franchise goes on.
Yeah, but you're still like afraid of him. He's just like he's got more taglines.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of Mike Myers, like, again, this is not sci-fi horror, but like he ends up becoming superhuman the later you go in it. And Jason, good God, that guy is, who knows what's happened with that guy in the later films.
Yeah.
But
he's been to space.
Yeah.
Jason's
He's
been to space.
Yeah. And like Ludacris went to space in one of the Fast and the Furious recently.
Yeah,
so.
right.
He did. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's sci-fi. That is strictly sci-fi.
But to get back to our AI, like 2001 is one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah.
I generally don't consider it like in this realm of horror. I guess like maybe I don't like generally assign like AI to horror or that technology yet, but I guess it very much is. Maybe Kubrick was tapping into something when he made that movie all those years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the sentience of like humans are illogical. We're emotional. That's what makes us human, all that sort of stuff. So like when we create things that are purely logical, like they're purely then therefore like inhuman. And just to be like to tell them to what to do. And of course they're not going to make the same decisions as us. Like of course not. That's just not how that works. But it's still terrifying because we taught them how to be that way and then they use it against us.
Yeah. And Hal is so cold and calculating and just there's that is like just man. Like even more so than other examples of AI, it just feels like there's like a disconnectedness that Hal has in making decisions to like start killing off the crew in ways that I don't like. I feel like in others you're talking about like human emotion and it's like even in other stories and things like that, AI still seems to have some amount of emotion to it in a way that I feel like Hal is completely absent.
Yeah. And Hal's been given so much power. Like that's the thing too. It's just like if you like our robots right now, like if they mess up a cup of tea or whatever, okay, that's great. But like right now, the worst comes to worst, they would have messed up the show notes for tonight. The
Yeah, would
current
have given us
iteration.
inaccurate information that we were like, oops,
Yeah,
whoops, shouldn't have put that in there. Probably should have
exactly.
fact checked that.
Yeah, but like hell is in charge of human lives to a certain extent. Like that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And not that far off, I guess. I mean, like we look at the things that humans are giving AI the power to control. I guess it's
Hmm.
only a matter of time.
Yeah, and it's just so wrong a lot of the time now. Like I hate that like Google preview that shows up if you Google anything, and it's just like, here it is. Because like as a slightly paranoid mid 40s woman, I Google a lot of medical stuff where
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is my arm gonna fall off, guys? And like it's always like, yep, it's gonna fall off. Like it's just like stuff that's just straight up wrong a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be like my source is Reddit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the really annoying things is Google's algorithm switched to generative AI to source
Hmm.
information and starting to like place more value on like these community forums like Quora and Reddit and things. It's like, no, that should not be where you're getting your information. That should not be your
No.
primary source of information. It's really frustrating.
And if you two want to know like a real life horror AI story, it's when you're applying for work and you're
Mm.
making your resume with AI tools and they're talking to AI to like suss out whether or not the resume passes a test before
Hmm.
you can talk to another human. So it's like computers are deciding whether two humans should meet.
Yeah. Again, you give them the power, and that's when it stops us being like laughing at it, and it's just like, oh shit, it's gonna kill us all. Yeah. I'm
Hmm.
less worried personally by aliens than I am by AI doing something bad.
It's true. It feels like a very tangible concern. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the elements in the movies we've talked about, there's fantastical elements to them, and we've talked about the like, is it plausible? Is it possible? And like, yeah, at some distant date, but it seems like that point where it turns scary is not necessarily that far off for
Hmm.
us.
Hmm.
So you're right. It does feel like the most immediately scary thing in this like whole conversation.
Hmm. Now, Transcendence is on the list here. Who did AI put that on this? Who put that
Yeah,
on this
that one
list?
I think what was that was the one with Johnny Depp and Paul Bettany where like
Yeah, and
Johnny
then
Depp like transferred his consciousness into a computer or something like that.
into like nanoparticles that are all around us. Like it is one of the dumber films like of all time.
I remember it being incredibly stupid.
It's so stupid. Yeah, it's just like, and then he like rains from the skies and he's in the water because he's in nanoparticles. And I'm just like, I can't, guys. I can't. Like, yeah, it's really dumb. But yes, it is. It is an example of computers taking stuff over and then becoming sentient and
Yeah.
hanging out in the rain. I don't know.
I saw in the kind of subtrope here on like personification of technology that someone
Hmm.
one of you guys added companion in there.
Oh
That's a
yeah, I
movie I
did.
saw recently and enjoyed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Talking about like, I don't know. It's interesting because I was thinking about it because you're like, it's a good for her, but the her is both female presenting and the robot.
Mm-hmm.
But like the header to this, like giving AI or machines human names to blur the line between man and machine, like that fits this entirely. And it is, I think, very squarely a sci-fi horror film, but it's not quite. You're rooting for the robot.
Yeah, it's true. You are rooting for you were rooting for the robot in that one. And
Yeah.
it's reminding me of that documentary I mentioned a few minutes ago, My Robot Sophia. They're interviewing the robot, and it was like a group setting where people were just asking her questions, and it was like it's an interesting dichotomy that she faces because she'll be asked in the same Q&A session like, do you want to be more human, but in the same time like people will comment to her about how she's not human enough. It's like this really weird situation that she finds herself in, like what do I Should I
Just
aspire to
women,
be more human, or am I just never going to be human enough for people? Like, what? How do
just
you
like
deal with that?
women and their double women dealing with double standards every day.
Yep. Even the robot women, unfortunately.
Even the robot women. Yeah.
Well, just got a couple more tropes to tackle real quick. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is also one of my favorites. The infection, body horror, paranoia, identity crisis. This is kind of like a mashup of themes. Like separately, it's like infection and body horror and paranoia and identity crisis. I do feel like they're very intricately like linked together. Like mutations, infections, alien transformation of the body. Characters are questioning like whether they're human, whether they're infected, whether they're even real. You know, the Thing, Slither, Species, Annihilation, Possessor, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Blade Runner. I haven't seen Vivarium. This was one that was like in here. Max, I see. It looks like you added Titane.
To 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
No, Vivarium was one of those, like, if you Google, like, sci-fi horror films, like, it comes up in all these sub-lists, and I'm like, I've seen it. No one talks about it. It's fine. Yeah. And this is interesting because this, I feel like you reading through that, Evan, and me looking at the list here, like, I also feel like Companion and Blade Runner are more related than I thought they were. Of, like,
yeah,
machines that just want to live their lives, as ridiculous as that sounds, but it is true.
yeah.
They just want peace and happiness.
I know, right? Yeah.
And to make love behind blinds of blue lights.
Exactly.
Yep. But yeah, I'm in love with body horror. It's like I'm squeamish, but also at the same time, it's like the alien infection stuff does. It hooks me, like The Thing, and even a movie. I'm sure you saw this one too that I didn't really care for. It's a recent one. Ash. Did you see this one, Dee Dee? Aaron
That
Paul,
sounds really
and I forget who
familiar.
else.
Oh,
It's
maybe
like
I
a woman
didn't.
wakes up on a space station, and like everyone else is dead, and she's like, what? What's going on? Did I kill all these people?"
Maybe I didn't see that. That sounds fun though.
Yeah,
But you
I
didn't
think
care
it's a
for it.
good premise, but it's like
Oh,
it
okay.
involves like alien parasites, and I think that is always an interesting thing when you have like parasites like taking over people's bodies and like them questioning like what's real, where who's in control of, are they in control of their own body, or are they fighting for control of their own body? All that I think is really like compelling. Like Possessor, also I feel like
I
that was
love
a pretty
Possessor.
like
I'm like,
central theme.
yeah, I'm like, you could put Possessor in all of Cronenberg's, his father's films on this like list right here too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Like in terms of like body horror meets sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Scanners comes to mind too.
Scanners, absolutely. I just hosted a screening of Crimes of the Future too, and like that's that's definitely sci-fi horror. It's squarely horror as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely body horror, but it's like, what if in the future you can grow new organs and it's considered art? Like, that's messed up. I don't want
No, unsubscribe.
that.
Yeah.
Like my current.
If for me, I had to add Titane because I was like, when I watched that movie, I don't think I shouted "What the fuck" more than than like any other movie I had seen in a long time. I think I watched it like in my basement because like that's where I'm put, where like I have to watch these movies that like Shannon doesn't want to hear, which is also how I watched Midsummer in my basement because she was like, I don't want to hear that, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea because that movie begins horribly.
Yes.
And
Yes, it does.
Yep.
And I was like, I like my feeling when I get out of a movie like Titane, because then I go up to her, I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? And it was like similar to when I watched The Substance, right? I had that like similar feeling. I was like, what the fuck? And it's just like, it's a good feeling though.
It's not good. Do you consider it sci-fi?
What, Titane? Maybe because like she like makes love of a car, becomes part car, right? I mean, maybe it's more fantasy. It's never really explained, but
I just
I don't
wanted to
know.
hear you talk through that.
When I was thinking body horror,
Oh yeah.
that was definitely something that came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Oh, for sure.
Species is another good one. Like Alien is going around trying to like create what hybrid alien children.
Hmm.
Isn't that right? She's like having sex with men to like create these hybrid alien human creatures.
I mean,
Gross.
for all the intents and purposes, even like a spinoff, you could say like almost the Between Both Worlds Star Trek episode where the Borg assimilates with
Mm.
Picard and becomes First Contact, right? That's like the sequel to those episodes, and like that's pretty horrific to think that you're assimilated to an AI network.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's kind of like bringing in the whole like body horror assimilation with the like angry AI bit,
Mm-hmm.
or not angry. The AI feels no emotions, but it does a lot of things that feel like anger.
Yeah, very cold, calculating, just kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Taking shit over.
Yeah. All right, and then I think our last theme was like cosmic horror slash the unknowable. We've kind of like talked about some of this, like these like incomprehensible forces or dimensions that are just like beyond our total and utter perception. Event Horizon, of course, in the list.
Hmm.
I'm not familiar with some of the other ones that are on here, like the Endless, the Mist, Color Out of
Oh,
Space.
The Mist.
I haven't
The
seen it.
Mist is the Stephen King giant monsters are outside the grocery store movie.
Is this like would In the Mountain of Madness also kind of qualify in this one? Like, because that's kind of like
Yeah,
alien-y and.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely like big picture idea thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Endless is Benson and Moorhead. Um, it's kind of in the world of several of their other films. So they did like Spring. Oh, they've done a million things, and I just cannot think of Something in the Dirt.
Yeah, I
Oh,
watched that
yeah,
one.
I've seen
Something
that
in the
one.
Dirt.
Yeah, yeah. In my opinion, they make really incredible films. They also have oh, they have one with Anthony Mackie where there's like cops and
Oh, that's a
time
good one.
travel. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that called? It begins with an S or something like that.
Yeah, I like that one too. It has
Yeah, it's some type of
who's that other
drug.
like white guy that I don't really like?
Jamie Dornan.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I
50
like
Shades
Jamie
of Grey guy.
Dornan. Oh my god. Watch Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar like every other week.
Synchronic.
That is a good movie. Yes,
Synchronic, yes, yeah.
Synchronic.
So it's the same filmmakers as that. It made The Endless, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Yeah, and it is definitely just like, oh, there's so much else out there. It's actually terrifying. Yeah, and Color Out of Space is the kind of recent alien invasion film with Nick Cage.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just added in here Coherence,
Yeah, tell us about that
just because
one.
it.
I know that's a
Have you
movie
seen
that you
this?
enjoy.
I love it. No, Coherence is basically it's one of these films that I is absolutely incredible, and it was made for like $75, and it was just filmed in the director's house, and most of the actors are his friends, but it's just basically these friends hanging out one night, having a dinner party. They all go way back, and there's clear that there's deep history there, and then there is a comet that goes overhead, and then they kind of slowly start realizing that reality might have changed because of the comet, and it
Hmm.
may have made it so they're not who they think they are anymore. But it's like it's absolutely incredibly well done, and it's never you never feel lost, like you don't know what's happening in there. But like I always use it as such a great example, and this is not it's a spoiler after the fact, but you won't know it going into it. That there's just like if you're watching a scene and a bunch of people open a shoebox and there is an oven mitt in it, and like literally the audience what I was with, like someone screamed, and I'm like, if someone screams at an oven mitt, that is really good writing.
That's true.
Hi. Oh my god, Coherence is it's usually streaming and really easy to find, and it's one of those movies like don't read anything about it, press play, put your phone in the next room, and just like enjoy.
Yeah, those are the kind of recommendations I like. It's like
Yeah,
let's find something that's off the beaten path that
yeah,
people
yeah.
will
But it is
probably
like it
enjoy.
is very cosmic horror. Like it is sci-fi, it is horror. It's very just like there is so much out there. Like we cannot even think it's not as simple as aliens or AI or something created in a lab. It's just beyond humanity, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. Almost
Big
like
fan.
it was like a dimension known as the Twilight Zone.
Guys, I watched 3 episodes of The Twilight Zone on my plane today, and it made me so happy.
Love it. Love that
Yeah.
show. It's a show that I honestly I didn't watch growing up, but Shauna got me really into, and now I'm on the like sci-fi, or I'm on the Twilight Zone like New Year's marathon train.
Oh,
Every year we
yeah.
watch episodes of Twilight Zone for New Year's Eve. It's great.
Yeah. Besides the
But
fact that I was just like, oh, sci-fi horror. I'm going to watch a bunch of Twilight Zone coming in, guys. This all makes sense. Also, there's like 7 episodes to support like any one of these tropes if we went back through it.
It's true. Yeah, very very rich show in that regard. There's a lot
Yeah.
they tackle.
Max, are you a fan?
oh, Twilight Zone, yeah. Years ago I wrote about Rod Serling too and his genius and
Nice.
how he was writing the scripts for these. Of course, writing Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly also in the realm of that sci-fi horror action movie.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah.
I love those classic Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah. I'm a big Richard Matheson person, and like I one time missed 8 bus stops reading some of his short stories. And like I like looked up and I was like, oh crap, I was like literally like a half hour past where I should have gotten off the bus. I was
Oh,
just so
no.
engrossed. Yeah, highly recommend. But yeah, maybe don't on a bus where you need to get off before the end of the line.
All right. Well, I know we've run a little bit long in our conversation, so we'll just wrap up by saying this was a really fun conversation of sci-fi horror, and I'm glad you were able to join us, Dee Dee, and ask us some of these thought-provoking questions.
Yeah, thanks for humoring me.
Yeah, of course. I think it led to some really fun conversations and even if they were a bit of a detour, I think they were fun detours. So let's see. So I know, Max, we like to do a quick station identification, where you can find us out there. So we're out on social media. The podcast is either It's the Pick Pod or It's the Pictures, depending on where you're looking. But we're out there. We're doing, I would say, probably the most of our like outreach on Blue Sky, right? I know, Max, you're very active on Blue Sky. And Max also does this really great newsletter for the podcast that is all of his like work, and it's not just like stuff we talk about in the show. It's like all this great stuff that he's doing, like what he's watching, like great interviews with people, delving into other TV, movies, video games, anime, like a lot of really great stuff. Max, is there anything you want to plug from the newsletter that's coming up or that you just put out?
Yeah, I just put out in review of April where I run these monthly series of basically what I've watched, some links that I've enjoyed, highlighting the podcast episodes I record with Evan, and also try to like review things, share some home video suggestions. This month, I suggested 3 new movies. Well, not 3 new movies, but 3 to the 4K format, which are Clint Eastwood classics, including Dirty Harry, made it to 4K for the first time. Also, Criterion Collection welcomed 2 films by Sean Baker, The Prince of Broadway, and the Academy Award-winning film Anora. Those are both available on 4K for Criterion now. I also did a review of the movie Thunderbolts recently, where I believe Evan and I will talk about briefly before we close out this evening. Evan, where can people find you?
Let's see. I'm all over the place on social media. Twitter still, for some reason. I have no idea why. Threads, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky. I'm Real Recon in those places. That's real as in film reel. And I'm also over on Spoiler Piece Theater, the weekly film podcast, where Dee Dee has also appeared in many an episode, although it has been a very long time since we've had you on. So I feel like we gotta bring you back.
Okay, you know where to find me. Yeah, I'd love to.
And Dee Dee, where can people follow your writing?
Sure, yeah. I'm mostly on Blue Sky as well, and it's Deirdre Crim, DeDecrim. I'm also on Instagram at Deirdre Crimmins, and I do share everything I write that I get tagged in on all those locations. And if you follow me on Instagram, you get to see pictures of all the dogs I meet every day.
You don't have a letterbox, do you, Dee Dee?
I do, but I don't review things on there. I just use it basically as a log and to see what my sister's been watching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also to see.
I
Yeah,
try
I
not to
see.
give free reviews either. I like to just keep it as a log, but yeah, I'll have to check to see what you're watching.
Yeah, I have been enjoying watching the reviews pop up of movies that I program in Chicago, and I'm just like, oh, well, okay, good to know. Like sometimes people really like it, and sometimes I'm just like, okay, not the crowd for it. But yeah, no, that's been one thing I've been kind of stalking, but I don't really contribute to.
Can you share your work for that? You program movies in Chicago?
Oh yeah. So I'm a co-programmer for the Weird Wednesdays at the Draft House in Chicago. So me and my co-programmer Jason Kaufman show a bunch of weird shit. I'm showing Santa Sangre this week on Wednesday, so that'll be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's see. So I guess that brings us. Well, Max, you didn't share where people can find you.
Yeah.
Oh yes. You mentioned that the podcast is really on Blue Sky. I am there too. Blue Sky, you can find me at maxcolville.com or just search for Max Colville there. Of course, the podcast is there. You can follow my watched movies on Letterboxd. I'm a pretty avid follower of Letterboxd. If I'm not writing reviews, I'm at least posting what I've watched within minutes of watching it. So you'll know what I'm doing when I watch movies outside of the movies that I want to talk about. Thunderbolts. I also saw Sorry Baby at IFF Boston, the closing night there. That was kind of fun to catch the audience, and I was so excited for that closing night film. And I watched the old movie in the 90s, The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is Gina Davis. It recently got a release from Arrow on 4K. Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. I kind of feel like it's Born Identity before Born Identity, because Gina Davis plays like a housewife who suddenly realizes that she's like a top secret agent and has to like save her daughter from like these evil guys, and it's a pretty neat movie.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember enjoying it. It's Shane Black wrote it, so if you kind of know if you know Shane Black, you kind of know what you're getting into. But yeah, and I forgot to mention that if you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can send us an email. It's thepictures@gmail.com, so you can reach out to us. And then our newsletter is on Substack, so check us out there. And then let's just quickly we'll talk about stuff we've been watching. Max, I think we both saw Thunderbolts. So just kind of quickly, what did you think about Thunderbolts?
Yeah, so I was actually pleasantly surprised by the movie. Certainly, I was more kind of leaning to go see it due to the positive praise that it got, and in the media. I mean, some of these you hear the buzz come out, and they're like, "Oh, it's another Marvel movie," but people seem generally excited about this, and for good reason. I think ultimately what made the movie for me is that it felt like it had stakes, or the superheroes or super people in this case, because it's arguable whether or not they're heroes, have tangible attributes about them that make them feel like, we could be that person, or they're one of us. That they suffer from a lot of self-doubt and depression and anxiety, which, if a movie's tackling mental health, I'm a proponent of it. So that was nice to see in this movie. And I guess as a, it's a collective film, but Florence Pugh is really the glue that holds the whole thing together, and she's a fantastic actress, and certainly holds your attention through this one.
Yeah, she's great. I won't say much because I've talked about it on Spoiler Piece extensively, but I also did really like Thunderbolts. I think centering on Florence Pugh is a great idea. I think she really anchors the movie, but I like that it's not your typical superhero movie, and that it's really delving into loneliness and sadness and depression and making that a villain of a movie that you're going to be fighting, as opposed to like, someone who's just like, oh, I want to take over New York, or, I want to take over the world. I like that the movie is dealing with trauma and baggage and loneliness and depression and confronting those. Yeah, see Thunderbolts. Also, because it's one of my movies in the
The summer movie game. Yes, we didn't
game.
go over the scores at the beginning of the episode, but since Evan's movie is the only one out, I think that Thunderbolts has had a pretty healthy second weekend. I'd probably imagine it's upward of 150 domestic if just shooting off my hip of what it did on its first weekend and into the second. So it's probably doing pretty well.
Yeah, IMDb says the worldwide gross is 272. So pretty good. Anyway, Dee Dee, what's something you've seen recently that you maybe would like to plug?
Just like show and tell. I love it. I'm like, I have two down here. Is it cool if I talk about both of them real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So one of them is coming out pretty soon because you guys know I love talking about the next movie that is going to be my favorite movie.
Yep.
So I Bring Her Back, which is done by the same two filmmakers who did Talk to Me. Talk to Her. No, Talk to Me. Talk to Her is a very different film.
Yeah.
Sorry, Talk to
Me. You were right the first time.
Yes, thank you. And this is their film that's also, it's, oh my God, it's just like such an emotional nut punch. It is so well done. It is body horror. It is gross. It is coming out soon. It is one of those films you really shouldn't know too much about but going into it, but good God, it's amazing. And Sally Hawkins is in it, and she is just always wonderful. But also I want to talk about, there's this one film that's played a bunch of the festivals that I've been at this past year, and it's rare that I would see a film twice at two different festivals just because time is of the essence and there are only so many time slots in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose to see this film a second time because I was like, good God, I need to watch this with an audience at least once more. It's called It Ends. And it's a movie it took 6 years to make, and the guy who made it is like, I think all of like 23. Like, he's incredibly young. It's incredibly low budget. It feels very of that age when you're like just getting out of college and being like, oh, so life is a thing. How's that work? And it is 100% a terrifying horror film, but it gets existential, and basically the very rough premise of it is like, what happens if you start a road trip you can't stop? And it is absolutely incredible. And so it's called It Ends Again, and I'm just like so excited. I don't think it officially has any distribution yet, but just based on its festival buzz right now, there's absolutely no way it won't be coming out in a certain degree. So highly recommend. Keep an eye out for it.
Yep, this is trademark Dee Dee, folks. Whenever we had her on Spoiler Piece, she would talk about these movies because she'd come off the festival circuit, and then like it'd be like 2 years later sometimes, like, oh my God, I remember Dee Dee told me about this movie. Oh, thank God, it's finally coming out and we can watch it. So she's got her finger on the pulse of movies
you can't see.
Yeah.
But no, I like stuff that's new. Like I mean, as much as I love nostalgia, I love being able to highlight the fact that film is still alive and incredible and doing really good weird stuff we haven't seen before, even more than 100 years into this crazy game.
Yeah. Well, that wraps things up for us. Thank you so much again for joining us, Dee Dee. This was a really fun conversation about film, about sci-fi horror, and it was a really good time. So we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, totally appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
It's like a film class and a podcast episode.
Yeah, it was great. But definitely pushing us to like think more critically even about genres or films that we maybe took for granted. So I like that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I like these sort of conversations, so I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.